This one's called Reach. So today I want us to think about what we want to reach for with our children. And in your notebooks, if you would write your name inside the front, it's got a clear cover. Write your name so that if you leave it anywhere, you don't have somebody else's notes, you have yours. Yeah. They just all look the same for some reason. And I would like you inside the cover to write 3 things you are reaching for this week with your children, with your family. Maybe more peace, maybe more fun, maybe less arguing, less fighting, less screaming, less whatever, or more. More is always more positive than less. All right, so just 3 that you want to reach for this week. So while we're here in class, my expectations are that your children are going to do what they would need to do in any class. So if your child is doing what a teacher would expect, perfect, okay? If they're tapping you, for a baby, he's not ready for school, that's fine. He's absolutely fine. But the ones that are school age should be sitting on the floor. There's coloring for them, okay, so they can practice. That he probably needs to be in your lap because he was gone for a bit, so that's good. But we want them practicing school behavior. If they were whispering in class, would that be acceptable? No. If they're tapping you, would that be acceptable in class? No. Okay. The teacher would correct them and it would not be good. So anything they do in here that is not acceptable in a classroom setting is a flight check. The team's right here, ready to call. Yep, ready to take your child and help them. And last night we had 6 flight checks during dinner, which were amazing. All of you had such courage. That was great. And I got to work with one of them a little bit last night and then again this morning. And the strength and the changes in that one child were just breathtaking. I was so excited to see the growth in just one. So I know it's hard. Hello, my child's acting up. But it's what you came for. You came for change. So when you call it and the team can work with them, every single time they're shifting from the back to the front. And right now it takes a long time, but it should get shorter and shorter and shorter. And we were seeing a big improvement in the self-control and the frustration tolerance, building up that ability to control that frustration. So it's what we want, okay? So the more you call it, the faster they're going to heal, the most benefit you're going to get from camp. And this is a powerful team. They are amazing. I'm excited about them. So we want them to be silent, to not disturb other students around them. Respect for property. They're not on chairs, but if they were on a chair, they would have their feet off of the chair, okay? Playing quietly if they're under 5 years old, little ones. A lot of times we have some toys and stuff. There are a few little books here. If anybody wants to have their little one look at a book, would he like a book? He doesn't read real well. Slow learner. Those that are over 5, we want them to listen and maybe write a few notes on the back of their eagle or something of something that they learned. So that would be a flight check, Mom. He's talking in class. Go ahead. The team's right here. We got a flight check. What they've found with research is if we write notes, just a couple of words here and there, even if we never go back and reread our notes, we retain 80% more information than if we never wrote anything down. So we gave you some space in there in case I say anything profound that you might want to. How fast the eagle fly? Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about eagles. They're my favorite. The eagles. The bald eagle is the symbol of our country. It stands for freedom. And when the founding father was actually, Benjamin Franklin was in there, so it was the founding fathers. They were deciding which creature should be the symbol of our country. And they didn't pick like the wild Mustang or anything like that. But Benjamin Franklin wanted the wild turkey. to be the symbol. And I'm glad he didn't pick that. We have a lot of wild turkeys out here, and we enjoy them. They are delicious. Oh, I mean, they're interesting. But they're not an eagle. I mean, you can't compare. So the eagles, their talons are like razor blades. They can rip through leather with their claws. They're so amazing. Their eyes are so incredible. They can spot a rabbit blink a mile away, and they dive. And when they dive, they tuck their wings, and they're absolutely silent. And sometimes I'll be standing out on the porch, and I don't hear Gordon coming at all, and he just comes over the roof silently and grabs a rodent. And when he grabs a rodent, he lands, and he just sits there, and he looks around. And the first time he's doing that, I'm like, did he miss and he's embarrassed, or, what's he doing? He's just sitting there. And then he takes off with the rodent. So he's just waiting for it to quit, struggling or whatever it's doing. And then he flies up and sits in a tree and has his lunch. And sometimes, you're out there in the river fishing. I'm like, I see that fish. That one's mine right there. I'm going to get that one. And here comes one of those bald eagles, and they just go and take the fish. And you're like, that one was mine. Excuse me. And they're like, no, that one was mine. Anyway, they can see so much better than we can see. But it's like all of you. Your eagle eyes, watching your children, spotting every single thing they do, is what's going to make a difference. It helps them to feel safe. You see me. Okay, when they're testing, one elbow, you didn't call it. How about 2 elbows? How about if I got 2 elbows and I'm chewing with my mouth open? Don't you see me? And we all want to be seen. We don't want to be invisible. Nobody even knows we're alive. But our children who haven't been protected, who have been too much fear, too much stress, they want to know we can spot it. We're going to see something happening and be able to protect them. And so they test, and we even call it testing. And I'm like, great, give me a test. I want to pass it. I want to get an A+ on my test. How about you guys? So when they're testing, because yesterday during orientation, they went over every single bit of it. They're supposed to say, yes, Mom, yes, Dad. And if that isn't the response you got, it's a flight check. We call that turkey behavior. When they're doing the, oh. One little guy had at the table last night. I said, I called his name, and he looked at me and said, huh? I was like, children don't say huh to adults. I didn't say that, but I was like, I'll check in with you a little bit. 4 times. What? I never did get a yes, Miss Nancy. He ended up in the teepee after that. But anyway, he got more and more frustrated. I don't know what you want, lady. You'll figure it out. It's okay. They went over it during orientation, that they're supposed to be saying, yes, Mom, yes, Dad. May I please? It isn't, I'm thirsty. Okay, that's a complaint that we don't respond to except a flight check. Okay, I want water. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, give me water, please. Commanding and demanding with a please stuck on the end is still not respectful. It's kind of like putting icing on dog poo, I think. It just doesn't improve it any. Okay, it's absolutely not acceptable. So, may I please is how they ask. So the please is in the front. Or would you please if you need to do something. So they went over all of that over there. So I want all of you to take your expectation level up here for every single child here. All of them can do that, okay? I mean, not Anderson. He's a baby. That's all right. But anybody 5 and up can do it right the first time. All of them, even the special ones. So the eagle's eyes, the eagle's claws, the eagle's wings. Gordon's wings are 12 feet. 12 feet is a lot bigger than that. And when Gordon sits out in the field, he's about this tall. Huge, just huge. He spreads those wings, is incredible. A bald eagle, I've got a baby bald eagle here that my friend took a picture. They're all brown, like camouflaged, until they're about 3 years old, so that they're a little better hidden. and then they start to get their white head and their white tail. So sometimes you see a dark brown eagle and you're like, what is that? It's called an immature bald eagle. They're just, and I have a few pictures in here of those. They can soar 4 to 5 miles without flapping at all. If you have ever seen a duck fly, you know, and they're usually quacking when they go. It's like, holy cow, this is a lot of work. You know, the eagles just go, and I think that would feel really good. Did you ever think about what it would feel to soar? My favorite Bible verse is that one, you know, in Isaiah 30:31 there. And he's like, you know, those who wait upon the Lord. And I always think it's not about like, we're waiting. I think it's more like serving. Like a servant is called a waiter or a waitress because they're serving people. Anyway, I'm not going to preach this morning. I just thought. But we're supposed to be able to soar on wings like eagles, which is no effort, just the wind holding us up, the air holding us up. And actually what they found is there's called these thermals. And a thermal is a different temperature of air that we can't see, but eagles can see because their eyes are so different. And it's like a giant donut, and they go way up. So the eagles literally go from one thermal to another to keep them soaring 4 to 5 miles. So if you get to see Gordon, he's just like, and every now and then he'll flap so he can turn, you know, but he doesn't have to work so hard like a duck. And that's what I want for all of you. You don't have to work so hard. So I know today and tomorrow you got to call 5,000 flight checks and pray a lot. You know, that's all right. But then about midweek, you should start seeing your children start shifting. When they're courting, you would think the king of the air, I mean, they've been clocked at over 200 miles an hour when they're doing a free fall. You would think the king of the air, when he's courting, he wants to show off to a lady eagle how amazing he is. You would think he'd go like, hey, look at that, baby. Do you see those? Whoa. No, that's not it. When they're courting, and I know I'm going to do this exactly right. Maybe not. They do like this. They do. They just walk like that. And then she goes, oh, baby, you're a hunk. I don't know. Not to me, but to her. Okay? So then they fly to the top of the sky. How high is that for an eagle? I'll tell you. There was a Delta pilot. Okay, they got a little machine on the front of the plane there in the cockpit. It's called an altimeter that shows how high you are from the earth. And he's flying his plane, minding his own business, and a salmon hit the windshield. A lot of times salmon are not up there, you know? And he's like, what? And he looked, an eagle had dropped his lunch. That was 25,000 feet. 25,000 feet? We need an oxygen mask. We have to have a pressurized chamber or we blow to bits. An eagle has a layer of feathers. It's 60 below zero. Our nose would freeze off in a second. Our ears would be gone. They got a layer of feathers. And the eagle's just taking his lunch. So it's like, whoa. So when the lady eagle and the male eagle come together, they fly to the top of the sky. And we're talking the top of the sky up there, okay? And then he takes his talons, those razor blade sharp talons, and he gets a hold of her feet so gently and so carefully, he causes no harm. And then he wraps his powerful wings around her wings. Nobody's flying. They are free falling. I'll tell you what, that is exciting. I'll bet you it's more exciting than bungee cord jumping or anything else that people do for fun. They're free falling, tumbling to the top of the trees where he lets go, and they fly right straight back up. Then she takes her talons up there in the sky, takes a hold of his, closes him in her wings, and they free fall once again to the top of the trees. She lets go. They fly right straight back up. They mate and they stay together for life. It's a relationship built on trust, because that's some trust there. Woo! I mean, a lot of our children have been dropped before they came to us. A lot of them have been hurt over and over and over. So we're asking them to trust us. And they're like, that's hard. Is it too hard? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've seen it done thousands and thousands of times. But building that trust is a very difficult project, and it's essential. And they learn to trust you when you call flight check when they test. Or they treat you like you're a doormat because they don't trust you and you're nobody. You're not the leader of the family, and our children need a strong leader so they feel safe. They can be a child and just feel safe and play and do the things that a child needs to do to develop their brain and their personality. All right? All right. So respect is the foundation for trust. Trust is the foundation for love. So we start with respect. Yesterday we started with table manners, and you will see, those of you that called flight check on table manners, you will see changes in their ability to chew with their mouth closed, sit up at the table, say thank you when they get their plate, all of those things we expect from a child to be able to eat, or an adult, they should be eating. Some of them didn't ask for that. When we had them at the flight check table, we have their silverware. And we expect them to ask for their silverware because our children have a problem asking for what they need. They will ask for what they want all day long. But for what they need, they're like, so they're sitting there with the plate, the beautiful food that you prepared for them, and no silverware. And it took them a while to figure out. And I have a whole cup full of forks, knives, and spoons where they can see it so they know I've got them. And eventually they would one little guy asked for a fork. I said, yes, sir, you can have a fork. He didn't ask for a knife. Stabs a fork in the pork chop, in the piece of meat. Pulled the plate. If they're eating disrespectful at our table, we pull the plate for 1 minute. Okay, then we say, what happened? He said, well, I was chewing a big chunk of meat. Yes, you were. Good job telling the truth. I give him their plate back. Okay, so then he's like holding it with his finger, trying to cut it with the fork. So I pulled the plate, finger in the food, and eventually he asked for a knife and was cutting it. Anyway, they're so funny. Asking for their needs happens during the first year of life, and it got interfered with many of our children when they got dropped. Okay, so we are going to really, really reinforce those table manners so they can eat as an adult with nice manners. All of them, chew with their mouth closed, being respectful with their words, all of that, okay? Lots of flight checks during meals for those things. So the way they talk needs to be respectful. May I please? And when you give any direction, which starts with, I want you to, they say, yes, Mom, yes, Dad. And they do it, and then they can come back and say, why did you want me to do that, if they really have a question. If they ask you why in the beginning, who should answer that? The child. They can tell you why you wanted them to do it. And I like to say, when you finish doing what I just asked you to do, then you can tell me why. Because that's a challenge for your authority. It isn't, I would like a deeper understanding of what's going to happen to the kitchen floor if I don't sweep it. Will the bacteria build up and affect the family? Or that's not what they're asking. It's, why do you think you can tell me to sweep the floor? So when we answer a question that's disrespectful, it validates that it was appropriate to ask. Is it appropriate to challenge you for your position as leader of the family? Absolutely not. Okay, so I want you to is how we say it. And then some parents at the end of a direction will say, okay, which means, is it okay with you if I give you a direction? It's very confusing. Or is that, do you want to? Or as a question, would you please, okay, that makes it a request, not a direction. Would you please clean your room? Well, our children that are defiant are going to opt for no. But a direction literally enters a different part of their brain. Okay, back here, when we have fight, flight, freeze, there's a big fire in some building you're in, they don't stand at the exit and say, would you please exit? They're going to go, everybody leave the building calmly. Walk this way. Move toward the exit. They're going to give directions in an emergency situation because we're in the back part of our brain. Our children that have been through trauma are often in the back part of their brain, and we give direction. If it is optional, while you're getting yourself a drink of water, would you please get me one as well? Then of course I put a please in there, okay? But when it's a direction, I want you to brush your teeth, that's not optional. I expect the teeth brushed. I expect the bed made. I expect the homework done. Those are all directions, not options, okay? So we're gonna really, really focus on respect today. I want you all to have so many jewels. Your name tag is pulling your neck down, and you have to walk like this because your jewels on your name. Because every one of those represents a step forward for your children. And that's what you came for. That's what we're reaching for with our Eagle Reach. All right, so step one, we're going to start working on trust this afternoon. So when a child needs to get your attention, children, these are questions for you. When you need to get your mom or dad's attention, what should you say? Yes, Christian. Perfect. You got it. Excellent. So children say, excuse me, mom, or excuse me, dad, and then they wait for what? What are they waiting for? Yes.
Until they acknowledge you.
Perfect. So then parents, we're going to give them eye contact. We're going to give them our full attention. We're being respectful. And we say the child's name. All right, so excuse me, and then we wait, and then it's may I please, right? So when your mom or dad give you a direction, who can raise their hand and tell me what you would say? Yes, Christian.
Like, may I get a drink?
May I what? Get a drink?
May I please get a drink?
Okay, yeah, if you need to ask something. If your mom or dad tells you something to do. Yes, Ethan.
Say yes, mom, and do it. Yes, Dad, or yes, Mom,
Perfect,
do it.
perfect. All right, so do they all know exactly what they're supposed to do? Do they need a second chance? Do they need a warning? Absolutely not. They can do it right the first time. Okay, you've told them. You told them a million times before you got here. Okay, so we just like to make sure they All right, when a child is walking with an adult, children, where should they be walking? Yes, Brianna.
Beside or behind?
Beside or behind, absolutely. And that's respectful for a number of reasons. In a pack of dogs, the alpha dog goes into the cave first or goes out hunting first, leading the pack. The lead horse moves out first. If we were a primal people and we lived in a cave, okay, we're going out in the morning to hunt the saber-toothed tiger. Who would we send out first? A small child or a big warrior? What do you think? Brave hunter? Who's going out first? Brave hunter. Why wouldn't we send a small child out first? What do you think?
Because the child might get killed.
Right, they would be a snack for the saber-toothed tiger, which we don't want to happen. So for safety, we would send out the leader, okay? Then we've all been out hunting and gathering for the day. Ladies, we've been picking the wheat. Can you imagine what that was like with the little, whatever, gathering? And we come back to the cave. Who are we going to send in first just in case the bear moved in to take over as a home? Parents? Who would we send in first? Parents. Yes.
Biggest, strongest, meanest.
That's right. Powerhouse. Because we need to make sure it's safe. So in America, we tend to push children in front of us, especially the little ones, and they're scared. They're like, I don't know. I used to fly all the time. I've flown 1.5 million miles, literally, because the airlines measures them for me. And most of the time with little ones, the parents are walking down the airplane aisle pushing the child, and they're going, I don't know where 32B is. I can't read yet. Why am I in the front? You know? And they're looking at all these things. They're scared. But the parents want to see them because the parents don't trust the child. I saw one dad get off a plane, very busy airport. He had 3 little ones. There was probably a 6, a 5, and a 4. And he just walked, never looked back. So he gets off the plane like this. And they were right behind him like baby ducks. And he didn't have to look. He knew where they were. And they knew they needed to pay attention or they were going to have a problem. Because he wasn't herding them, pushing them like a goat. He was leading them like lambs. When we have a little one with attachment disorder, they'll walk off into the field and keep going. They won't even look back. So you got to chase them until you get attachment going on. Then they will stay with you and follow like they should. They don't want to be away from the shepherd, the leader. Okay? So they learn to follow. Then they can see what we're doing. They're watching us so they can learn. What does the leader do? We work hard, we're honest, we're demonstrating all of the skills we want them to learn. If they're in front of us, they don't know what we're doing behind them. Now, some of mine, I didn't want them behind me for safety reasons. Mine like to pick up sticks and rocks. I'm not sure about yours, but mine almost always had sticks and rocks. I want them right here, and I'm holding their hand. Okay, we've got a 6-foot rule here for safety. And a lot of times, I just prefer, I got children right here, and I'm hanging on to them, so we're going where we're going, and we sit together and, do like that. But we really want to watch our 6-foot rule so that they're with a parent. They can't be with another child. They have to be with a parent for that 6-foot rule. They should look in our eyes when we're speaking so that we can see their eyes. Are they confused? Are they scared? Have we talked them into a coma? We need to see their eyes. And it's respectful. We want them to see our eyes, that we believe in them, that we care. We want them to see that in our eyes. Okay? Respectful table manners we covered. So turkeys say, hey, Mom, I'm thirsty, which is just a complaint. Give me, demanding, commanding, complaining. All right? All those turkey behaviors, not acceptable because we don't have any turkeys here. I got to work with some of your children last night with the flight check, but I know none of these children were born to be turkeys. And I know that for a fact because I got to work with all of you parents, and every one of you is an eagle. Eagles don't have turkeys in their house. They have baby eagles. They were born to be eagles. That's why they're with you, so that you can guide them to be who they're supposed to be. So turkey behavior doesn't fit in your home. That's all flight checks where they can go and improve, get better. So our goals this week are understanding attachment and what trauma does to the brain and the behavior, learning healing techniques and how to use them. For the first few days, we want you to rest and recharge. You're all exhausted. I mean, traveling alone is exhausting, but living with children with challenges is beyond exhausting. So we want you to rest. We want you to call the flight checks. The team's going to be doing it, and then we're going to shift it over to you. You have to have 5 jewels on your name tag. When you get 5 jewels, okay, for each child, some of you have a whole lot more than others, for each red bandana, I should say. Then we're going to start having you do the interventions with your child, and I would like for you to have a couple of days doing that so that you've got the skills to be confident and comfortable with it on the way home, so that on the way home is a whole lot of fun, and you can just relax and help your children move forward, and we'll talk about all that later. But anyway, resetting the family trust and relationships, bringing back the laughter, empower. We want to empower you to continue the healing process at home after camp. So today we're going to talk about understanding attachment. Tomorrow we're going to talk about brains. Then we're going to talk about hearts. Then we're going to talk about the plan for healing, tools to stop inappropriate behavior, and your future, what we do after camp for our children. So some of the information I'm going to share with you are from the leaders in the country as far as research and finding what has impacted the brain and what we can do to undo some of the damage that's in the brain. So some of it is from Dr. Bruce Perry from Baylor College of Medicine. He's a professor there. Some is from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. Harvard University is a professor there. And Dr. Daniel Amen has brain clinics all over the United States. Very, very expensive brain scans that are amazing. And in the beginning, they did a lot of prescription drugs. And the more research they did on the brains, they could see what different food supplements did for the brain. And they have switched a lot of the prescriptions they were prescribing to food supplements now, because they could see what does St. John's wort do in the brain and how do we see the changes. okay, this brain has a gap. We've seen where St. John's wort can, or the different herbs. So anyway, he's done massive research. And Dr. Karen Purvis from Texas Christian University also did a lot of research on trauma and how we can help children that have been through that. So Dr. Karen Purvis's research found 80% of adopted and foster care children were exposed to alcohol or drugs before they were born, which means 80% of children from foster care need that organic damage healed. So we're dealing with organic physical damage as well as the emotional, the heartbreak that they went through. So those children that have those struggles, we want to take it up a notch in their nutrition, in some of the healing treatments out there. Like we've got the SSP here, okay? And even some of our children that weren't from foster care, birth children, can have some issues with that, where too much trauma in the house impacted everything, okay? So, and we'll talk more about those things later, but they found 50% of children ages 8 through 11 adopted at 21 months or younger had severe challenges in relating to others and having empathy, which is attachment issues. And many of our children are misdiagnosed with autism. It's very, very common. And there are certainly children that do have autism, but some of our children, they don't. It's reactive attachment disorder, and they can get over it completely. With autism, there's going to be some extra struggles permanently. So I always hope that it's a misdiagnosis and we can move them all the way forward 100%. All right? So we'll see. Understanding attachment. Okay, got a lot of technical stuff there, but what is it? It's a two-way connection. As parents, we feel how much we love the child, okay? So, but it has to be a two-way connection where they care about you, or it doesn't impact their brain. It doesn't build a conscience so they feel bad when they do things wrong, when they hurt your feelings, when they break things or steal things. They should feel bad and stop themselves once we get that conscience developed. But without loving you the same way you love them, I mean, the same amount. So let's do a little quiz. Okay, parents, I want you to ask your child when their birthday is. Everybody ask your child. Okay, did they all know the answer? Everybody got it? Okay, good. Ask them what their favorite color is. Okay, don't give no clues on any of these answers. No clues. Okay, ask them what their favorite thing is to do. Did they all have one? They know what the... Okay, we're going to take it up a notch. No clues, parents. Ask them when your birthday is. Sorry. Okay, how many of them knew? Raise your hand if your child knew when your birthday is. Raise your hand. Okay, we got one. That's good. Okay. And ask them, and don't tell them when your birthday is. Okay. Ask them what your favorite color is. Okay, how many got that one? Okay, good. They did better there. And ask them what your favorite thing is to do when you have spare time. They might not have ever seen that one. Spare time. Okay, how many of them knew and got it right? One. Okay. A lot of times we get interesting answers. You like to wash dishes in your spare time. One of them, Dad was a pastor. He likes to write sermons. Sure. But a lot of times they've never seen us with spare time. And when I ask parents, what do you like to do for fun? They have to think way back years ago. I used to golf, or I used to fish. I used to have a motorcycle. We sold it to pay for therapy. Yeah, I hear you. All right, so attachment is a two-way connection. They care when you're sad. They care when you're exhausted. They care. Our children are so busy surviving, they can't care. I picture them when they've had major trauma, like in a giant swimming pool where the deep end is 15 feet and they can't swim. And they've gotten themselves into the deep end of the pool. and they're coming up, screaming for air, screaming for help, like, and they keep going down. They're coming up for the third time, screaming for air. And we're like, 2 times 2 is 4. You have to memorize your multiplication tables. Are they going to be able to do their math? Not a chance. You need to chew with your mouth closed. They're drowning. Okay? So, I'm getting a sunburn out here because you're drowning so long. Can you drown faster? No. They can't care because they don't feel safe. So we got to dive in the pool and pull them out of the deep end. And if you have a cell phone in your pocket, take it out first. But you know what? When your child's drowning, who thinks about it? We just dive in. We don't care what we're wearing or what we got in the pockets. We just dive in and save our child. Hopefully not in this river. All right? We got 4 people that didn't make it out in the last 2 weeks. I mean, make it out alive. So, with our children, we pull them out of the deep end and they're like, oh, really scary. And they dive right back in. And we're like diving in, pull them out of the mess they made again. And they just dive right back in and we pull them out and make it, and we're like, what? So I like to move them over to the shallow end of the pool, okay? So that it's a farther way to get to the deep end where they get themselves in big trouble. And where do you want to draw the line with how far into the pool do you want your child before you're going to stop them and pull them out? What do you think? What would you choose? Pick one. The shallowest end, okay? Who else has a different answer? That one's fine. I wouldn't want my child in the pool. I mean, I'm just saying, if I had to jump in 3 times to save the same child from the same thing, we're not doing the pool, okay? Yeah. Okay, so I'd keep them up on the side, looking at books or something, and 1 toe over the edge of the pool, I'm correcting. So I don't have to keep diving in, and that's a flight check. 1 toe over the line, you call a flight check because they can't get themselves all the way into the deep end where they're not feeling safe. They're just testing, are you going to save me? Are you going to protect me? Are you going to keep me from getting myself into an unsafe situation? Absolutely. I'm going to be there. Absolutely. And I flight check. When I have a new child, I aim for 20 to 30 flight checks a day because I want that brain moving forward fast because my life's going to be a whole lot easier when I don't have to keep diving into the deep end. And if I keep saying, don't put your toe over, don't put your toe over, don't put your toe, do they stop? No. These children learn from what we do, not what we say. We use action in parenting them, not words. Because they don't learn from words. And I'm going to show you the brain and why they don't learn from words. But that 2-way connection, we're like, oh, wow, Mom, you dove in the pool 3 times to save me. You must be exhausted. And I've ruined your clothes and your cell phone's dead. I feel so bad. I'm going to stay out of the pool. That would be healthy. That's called secure attachment. Okay? But our children aren't there. So we got to keep them out of the pool so they can test us. We pass. A+. And then they're like, cool. May I please have swim lessons? Absolutely. We will get you swim lessons. Okay? And we work on it until they can go in the ocean and swim. All right? So, attachment is what we're working on. Studies have shown securely attached babies and toddlers do better with self-esteem. They believe in their abilities. They believe that they're valuable people. They have the ability to manage impulses and feelings. Like if they see something they want, they don't steal it. Relationships with parents, caregivers, and other authority figures like teachers are much better relationships. Their ability to be trustful and affectionate, empathy and compassion, and they have a conscience. When we feel bad about what we're doing, that's what stops us. Babies are not born with a conscience. It's developed with trust and relationships. All right, so they don't feel bad. They're not born bad. They're just born without that developed all the way. So this is from the American Association of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Can you read it in your book, or is it printed so dinky that it's microscopic? The teen manuals were not readable. They were like, can you read it, or it's too small? Okay, I just wanted you to have that. It's all technical. But sometimes you go to a therapist and they're like, well, I don't think we really have reactive attachment disorder, or, you know, well, it's in their manual, okay? They do. And we can't do an ostrich thing where, oh, if we don't look at it, it'll go away. It's a real thing, but unfortunately, so many are not trained in it. They have no idea. They say, well, I'm trauma informed. Great, but treating it is very different from being informed that there is a problem and what the problem is. We want to know, are you trained in what the solution is? So, attachment disorder. When they're not treated, when we don't find answers for them, okay, they have difficulty forming loving, lasting relationships, which means they grow up and they're alone. They're lonely. They have no friends. They have no spouse. They have no relationships. They are lonely. None of us want our children to grow up and be lonely. We want them to have people that love them, okay? They fail to develop a conscience or to learn to trust. They don't allow people to be in control of them due to trust issues. So when you have an employer, do they expect you to trust them and do what they tell you to do, follow directions? I mean, everyone I ever met did. So how long do you think your child would have a job with the way they talk to you when you give them something to do? Not long. They're going to be like, you're out of here. No job. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be homeless and alone. That is absolutely not what we want for our children. When you call a flight check, you're moving away from the hunger and the loneliness. You're moving away from that. I want my children to have a nice house with a pool and a barbecue so they can invite me over and cook me a really nice dinner, and we can sit out there and laugh and enjoy each other and have a meal together. A lot of times parents are saying, you keep doing that, you're going to jail. You keep doing that, you're going to prison. I'm like, I don't want my children focused on their future there. I want them focused on their future with something really nice where we are a family and the love is still there and the relationship that we have as adult. Okay, so when we don't take care of the broken attachment, that broken connection, or the anxious attachment where they're so worried you're going to leave them that they're glued to you. Okay, so it's a twisted relationship. They don't trust you at all. They're sure you're going to leave them, so they just get scared, really, really scared, rather than, you know what, I can't see you, but I know you're coming back because I trust you. They're like, I mean, some of them are so anxiously attached, you can't even go to the bathroom. They're outside the door, Mom, Mom, Mom. That's my 30-second break twice a day, man. A coffee break. Okay, awesome. So sometimes parents get confused and stressed. Parents often try the best traditional parenting, what all your friends and neighbors are doing. We figure, well, we should be able to do that. Well, we do. It doesn't work. So it makes us feel helpless, useless, inept, like maybe God didn't want us to have these children and we didn't listen and we did it wrong, and that's why we're failing. That's not it at all. You have the skills He gave you. Other people don't understand, and they often blame the parents. Well, you're just not tough enough. I've had them in the same day tell me I'm not tough enough and I'm too tough. I'm like, well, which one is it? Okay. Sometimes parents get overwhelmed and exhausted by the situation because there's no peace. You can't even think for a minute to figure out. For me, is like what I need to cook for dinner. Do I need to throw laundry? You know, what I need to buy groceries. You can't even think because the little mouths are all going. And you're like, whoa. So depression is very frequent. When we give and give and give and give till we have nothing left to give, we run out of steam and and PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. There's one called secondary trauma, PTSD secondary trauma from living with someone who has PTSD. So we get it. We have to be hyper vigilant with our children. Where is he? What's he doing? Where is she? What did I tell her to do? We have to, all the time, just like somebody at war. They have to know where is the enemy. And our children are certainly not the enemy, but we have to be hyper vigilant to keep them safe from themselves. Okay? So, many mental health professionals are uninformed about attachment and trauma, so we take the time out, drive them all the way in, pay money, bring them home, and they don't get any better, or they get worse. And they think traditional therapy, they're taught to develop a relationship with the client and use that as a trust base to deal with all the issues. Children with reactive attachment disorder, it's a relationship disorder. It's like they have a broken leg and we're taking them to a coach to teach them how to run. They can't. So these children cannot build a relationship. They're struggling with building a relationship with their mom and dad. Now they're supposed to build a relationship with a stranger they see 1 hour a week. It absolutely is not going to happen. So they can bring out all the toys and play and all that kind of stuff all they want. The child's manipulating and conning them. They're not being honest in there. No progress, zero. And you waste your time and your money. And some of them want to take our children in another room and close the door. So I always tell parents, make a list of the behaviors you're concerned about. If your child lies, put it on there twice. And most of the children with reactive attachment disorder, lying is right up there. Okay, so write on there twice. Then you sit with the therapist, you say, these are my concerns. My child lies, does this, my child lies. They say, okay, thank you very much. And then they start to take the child in another room and close the door. Grab your child and run. Because what just happened? Did they listen to you? No. What is a child who lies going to do behind closed doors with a stranger? They're going to fine-tune their ability to lie, manipulate, and con that stranger. Are they going to tell the real, true issues that need to be dealt with so the therapist can help them? They're going to make up nonsense about what you're doing and not doing at home, and CPS will be called, and it's all imaginary. And they're like, oh, children don't lie about that. Well, you haven't met ours. Because, yes, they do. Okay? So, it's hard being, it's so hard. I've worked with parents from all over that do all kinds of things. And we had a general here at the ranch at camp. I don't know if people are homeless or plumbers or electricians or engineers or generals. I don't know. You're all parents to me. Okay, you might be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. You're a dad or a mom to me. So it was about 3 days in, and the child was, going back to the flight check room again. And I sat with the family for a little bit, and the dad was just like, I'm used to people doing what I say. As a general? Yeah. Yes, thousands of people that are like, yes, sir, we will do anything you say. Yes, sir. And he has this little, cute as a button, little pigtails. I'm not doing anything you say, Daddy. And I'm going to torture Mommy until you feel really inept to even protect the woman you love. And he was like, war didn't do that to him. The little pigtail thing did. Whoo, she was brilliant and tough. Oh, so this is a turning point for your family. The stress has to stop. It will kill you. It will kill you. Heart attack, all of it. Cholesterol is all connected with it, all of it. So it's got to stop. The children can't live in a high-stress environment, but they create it. Havoc. They create havoc. The room is havoc, and you fight it all the time. Okay, so this is it. The word is flight check. For now, it's all you need to know. Eagle eyes and flight check. Eagle eyes and flight check. Correct, 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 correct. Aim for 20 to 30 for each child today. Okay? And it's a little bit hard if they're in there for 5 hours. Because you can't flight check because they're in there. But every minute they're in there, the brain is working how to shift from back here to up here, how to use the logic part of the brain. It's like they're in there weightlifting. Okay, they're lifting weights in their brain, building those areas that didn't develop. So the longer they spend in the gym, the more they're going to come out looking buff. Okay, but it's the thinking part of the brain we want buff, not the reactive, aggressive, arguing part of the brain back there. So they're doing it. First year cycle of life, babies have needs. This is from Freud, not Nancy Thomas, and Erickson. They're two ancient brain guys back in the day. So babies have needs. Children, who can tell me what babies need? What you got, Brianna?
Food.
Food.
Water.
Absolutely. Food and water. Yes. What else do babies need? What do you think? You got it? What is it, Brianna?
Rest.
Rest. Oh, yeah. Babies sleep a lot. You're exactly right. Okay. Yes. What you got?
And they need attention.
They need attention. You are 100% right. That is very important. So they need their diaper changed, right? What happens if a diaper doesn't get changed? What?
It's stinky and they get diarrhea.
They stinky and it makes them sick, yeah. But besides that, urine, pee, burns skin. And it sits on there long and it keeps burning it until it makes sores, blisters and sores. And then if it's still on there, it keeps burning it until it looks just like somebody burned it with fire. And it feels just like that. So when a baby doesn't have their diaper changed hour after hour after hour, they're hurting a lot. It's very, very painful. So some of ours went through that as little ones where no one came. So when a baby is hungry or they need attention or they need their diaper changed, what do? Brianna?
Scream and cry.
Scream and cry. So you're right. The first thing they do is a little bit of fussing. Okay, I have a need. I have a need. Okay, and if you don't listen to them and give them attention, okay, like Christian said, then they move to full-blown, okay, where every cell in their body is saying, I need. They can't go get their food. They can't change their diaper. They cannot take care of themselves. They are completely helpless. And without a person to come and take care of them, they would die. So that's called a rage reaction when they get all the way into that. And when they are in a full-blown fury like that, there's a cortisol wash that comes over the brain. And we all have cortisol when we get stressed. Like a lot of you traveling, okay, if you're on the road, we've got huge semi-trucks all the time, and they're big. And a lot of them are just amazing drivers. They're incredible. Coming over those passes with those rigs, okay. But some of them, not so much, okay? So sometimes you're driving along and the big semi gets way too close and you're like, and like, don't you see me? Hello? And that's adrenaline rush, okay? Whoa! Or some idiot pulls in front of you too quick and your whole family's in danger because they're not paying attention and you get that adrenaline rush. So the cortisol, when we get that stressed, washes through our brain and it eats the cables like battery acid going over, in a car. It eats the wires. So when we go through too much stress, the cortisol washes through and eats the cables in the brain, as our babies had when they weren't, feeling safe. So it also does other things in our body. It makes you hold your weight between your knees and your ribs. So we end up pear-shaped from cortisol, and you can diet till you're blue in the face, it won't come off. Okay, it's staying. It does a couple of good things, but it's not enough to make a difference. But babies that cry, the cortisol level, the first 3 minutes is low. It's not any destruction. After 3 minutes, the destruction starts building in the brain, and it's eating those cables, eating the cables, until 20 minutes after they started. At 20 minutes, the brain shuts down, and they go into a coma-like state. Well, there was this fool that wrote a book in 1850 that he never had any children, never was married. People who worked with him said he was very challenging to work with. He probably had reactive attachment disorder. But he said that picking up a baby will spoil him. And he got mothers to quit rocking babies. Babies were always in a cradle so they could be rocked. That's when the cribs came out. So they were learning how to be behind bars early on. Okay? And moms were taught you don't sit in a rocking chair and rock babies because that's, And kissing, he called it the kiss of death when a mother kissed their child. So babies were, hands off. And that's where it spread all over the world. I've taught all over the world, in Romania, in China, in India, England, Australia. And that lie that he wrote in his book has spread all around the world, that picking up a baby too much will spoil them. And what they have found with research now is putting a baby down too much will spoil them. That's what ruins them. But after they scream for 20 minutes, the brain shuts down and they go into a coma-like state that looks like sleep. Well, people say, just let them cry it out. After 20 minutes, they'll get quiet. They absolutely do. Because the brain damage is so severe that the brain shuts down to protect itself from further damage. And moms are told to do that. And think about it. They call it self-soothing. Doesn't that sound nice? Self-soothing. Think about it. If you were driving along in a car, okay, and you got in a terrible wreck, and you're trapped in there, and you can't get out, okay, and there's smoke coming out from under the hood, and you're like, okay, this thing might blow up. I need to get out of here, and I'm in a lot of pain. I'm hurting. Oh, there's a family member outside the car. You say, oh, please help me. I'm afraid I'm going to die. And they say, well, wait a minute. Let me check. Nope, it's not time for the rescue. You need to wait until it's rescue time. You need to learn to self-soothe. Okay, but I'm afraid I'm going to die, and this is not good, and I think it's going to blow up, and I'm stuck, and no, I'm serious. I really am afraid I'm going to die. No, you're not scheduled for a rescue for another 20 minutes. You'll have to wait. How would you feel about the person outside the car? Trust them? Would you? Not me. I'd be like, you don't care about me. I said I was scared to death, literally. And you're like, oh, no, that's not on my schedule today. And people are told to put their babies on a schedule. Well, they did research in the primal tribes where moms have them in a baby sling and the baby nurses whenever they want to. Babies, little tiny babies, eat every 15 to 20 minutes. They lie to us. They tell us it's every 2 hours. So what do? We get a great big bottle. You know how big their stomach is? As big as their fist. So we got a bottle that's bigger than that, and every 2 hours we let them have it. So they drink too fast, because they're too hungry because they waited too long. We put a cork in it in between so that they don't ask. And then they have speech problems because they carried the cork around for too many years. So we have all these weird American things that we do. And because they drink their milk too fast, then we have to pound the bubbles out of them. In the tribal research that they've done, those women don't burp their babies. I read that part in the book. I'm like, we need to get a contingency down to these southern tribes and help them to learn how to burp babies because that's very painful. And I was like, wait a minute, why are they not burping babies? Because they don't need to. Because we feed them wrong so they're full of air. Because they're sucking so hard so fast. They feed them right so they're not, But we're told every 2 hours, so they cry, and we're like, well, you can't be hungry. It's only been a half an hour. It's only been an hour. You can't be hungry. And they're saying they're hungry, so we tell them, no, you're not. Shut up. Put a cork in it. So babies have needs. They cry to have their needs met. Then when we come and meet their need, if they cry because they're hungry, we feed them. Or they cry because they're wet, we change them. One of the tribes they did in Africa, they researched, the moms had the babies in a sling, and by the time they were 7 days old, when the babies had to go potty, they would hold them out and the babies would eliminate, and they're out in the wilderness, their jungle or whatever, and they just go on about their day, picking berries or whatever they're doing. By the time the baby was 7 days old, if the mom didn't hold the baby out in time for them to go, and the baby went on them, they were branded as a poor mother. We don't know. We're supposed to know what our baby needs to go to the bathroom. We're always like, is that yours or mine? Oh, it's mine. We don't know before they have to go. They don't do potty training. They just, understand. They're so in tune. We don't know what the baby's asking a lot of times. We're like, okay, you want this? How about that? You want this? But when it's done right, they have a need. They cry. We meet their need. That's where trust is built during that first year of life, where they do it over and over and over, thousands of times. I've worked with parents that would feed the baby right before they cried. She always gets hungry now, so I'll just feed her. So the child didn't get to ask, didn't get to say, hey, I'm going to need some food here, whatever. Okay, so first year cycle got interrupted for most of our children. And then we have a problem with the second year cycle. This happens at the first birthday, before the second birthday, during that second year of their life, where the child wants something. They want to chew on an electrical cord here, okay? Well, we're going to say no. We can't let them chew on the electrical cord. They're getting their teeth and they always want to, So we say no. Then the child goes, oh, okay, you don't want me to chew on the cord. I'll go play with something else. And then we trust them, so we give them more freedom. They can play near the cord because we said, no, they got it. We can move away, or the fire, or whatever it is. In America, we're taught not to say no. Move the cord. We keep changing the world to suit the child. We have little plugs we put in all the electrical outlets, which is a good idea. Okay, I mean, because they don't need to learn by being killed. But we put all the little plugs in. And sometime before they're 21, you can remove the plugs. But they don't have on there, you keep them on until this particular age and then you remove them. We're just like, okay, he just graduated from school. Can we pull those out now? He's 21. How about, it should be before they're 3 because they've learned. So Freud called this the anal stage. Before they were 2 years old, all the potty training was done back in the day. Now we wait. Okay, you're 15. Would you like to be potty trained now? Not yet? Okay, we'll wait. When we don't complete the first year cycle for whatever reason got interfered with, they won't complete the second year cycle. So we say no, and they blow up. So a lot of parents stop saying no because it's like a blow up. Woo! And then the child absolutely has no frustration tolerance, and the world is going to have to teach them no. And it does. There's these nice bars they put up between them and society. We want them to learn no before they're out there driving, and we're having to say no drinking and driving, and they're going to say, yeah, you and who else are going to stop me? I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay, no should be taught before they're 2 years old for their safety and for their brain development. And our children don't handle no. So what I want you to do today, on top of watching every single thing they do wrong that's not respectful, I want you to say yes to everything they ask respectfully that they need. May I please have a drink of water? Yes. May I please use the bathroom? Yes. Everything they need, okay? And I want you to say no to everything they ask for that they want, that they don't need, so they can blow up here while you're surrounded by this powerful team and learn to build their frustration tolerance so you can say no when you get home, and they'll go, oh, okay, Dad. Okay, Mom. And deal with it. Okay, and some of them might take a little longer, but at least we can get through the initial huge blow-ups here. My team's trained to hold them if they need to be held for safety without hurting them. They're good at it. And they need a good workout. All this good food. They're amazing. Amazing, amazing. And they're here for you. So we want to take the stress off you. We want you to have huge, giant steps forward with your children. All right, we are going to do a break. Trauma can be drugs, it can be alcohol. Those toxic poisons pass through and the baby's having to deal with them. Many of them, their little liver has to kick into gear and be full force taking out poisons when it's not supposed to be working at all. So then after they're born, because the liver's been compromised with the poison before they're born, they can't handle chemicals in their food, like monosodium glutamate. Most of my children, their brains swell. 50% of humans, your brain swells, and it makes people have a headache that makes them aggressive. It's a little bit different kind of headache. So, all fast food, all of it. I checked the internet and called places, from the hamburgers to the pizza. Every single one of them are full of monosodium glutamate, which means our children cannot eat it unless you are fine with them being ugly to you. They can't eat it. Dye in the food, particularly the red dye, can blow our children out of the water. Judy's son had a big liver problem because his birth mother did so many drugs. And the school, I was with Judy. I heard her. She was very clear. He can't have dye and different things in his food. His body really reacts to it. So I will send his food. I will send his lunch. If there's a party and you need cupcakes or muffins or something, you let me know. I will send them so that, well, they had a special party for him, just for him, without inviting her or telling her, and gave him a cupcake with red sprinkles. How thoughtful. It was the last day he was ever in school. But anyway, he came home enraged, full fury, pounding the walls, foaming at the mouth, screaming at a top volume, 2.5 hours because of the red dye in the cupcakes. The teacher forgot. She didn't forget. She thought Judy lied and that she knew more than Judy. And that's what they do to parents. Like, you're just a parent. You don't know anything. What? If it was a peanut allergy, you think they would have given him a peanut butter sandwich? I don't think so. So that was his last day in school. I mean, he was home until he was in high school where he could make better choices and all that. The liver is impacted by so many different chemicals when they've had drugs before they're born that I had to learn how to make all the salad dressings from scratch. I make my own sausage. We cure our own hams and bacons. And people are like, what are you, Amish? I'm like, no, I'm smart. The Amish are just smart on that stuff. It's like they don't want the garbage in their food. So it's not being primitive in any way. It's being smart, feeding your children healthy.
The two things you don't. I've been watching your videos that Sharon has sent, and one of the things was that we've changed at home is once dinner is over, we all clean the kitchen together as a family.
Absolutely.
And he grumbles, but we've been making that a routine, and it's gotten better.
Perfect. Oh yeah, we love to do that. And everybody had a job. Okay, so I like to wash the dishes because I'm kind of a nut about not leaving dried eggs on my plates and putting them in the cabinet. I don't know why. Anyway, so I wash. I have somebody rinse. I have somebody dry. We have a bunch of sinks because I make cheese, and you got to have a lot of sinks for cheese making. So somebody else washes pots in another sink, and somebody's sweeping the floor, somebody's wiping the counters, somebody's clearing the table, putting the food away. So everybody has a job. And we used to time ourselves, how fast we could get the kitchen clean, okay? And it was so much fun. We got to where, with our big family, 7 minutes, the entire kitchen was food put away, floors wiped, counters, stove clean, everything. And then after we got so fast and efficient, we'd just sing while we did it. We'd pick a fun song and sing. Yeah. But at first it was like, okay, let's time ourselves and see how long it takes us. And the kids got so good at working together that, like, the one who was washing the pots would come in and say, I got done washing the pots. Can I help you wipe the counters? And they would cooperate because nobody left the kitchen till all of it was done. So instead of standing there waiting, they'd go, can we help you? And, yeah, if we had one whine, why do I have to rinse? I'd say, you are so right. You can do all of it. We're going to all sit and have dessert while you clean the kitchen. I'm not working with whiners. They obviously need more practice doing the job, so I give them the whole job. Pretty soon they're like, I'm so happy to have help. Absolutely. We work together. So, yeah. I don't send one poor child in there to clean the whole kitchen after a big meal like that. Nah, we do it together. So we were talking before that. Oh, yes, 2 things. So when it's not a meal, if it's during a meal, they will pick 2 of the things you just served. They do. So when it's not a meal time, I ask them what 2 foods they don't want to eat. And I'm going to respect that, okay? But they can't pick food groups. I don't eat salad. No. I don't eat vegetables. No. They can pick a salad ingredient or a vegetable that they don't particularly care for. So emotional or physical trauma, especially between birth and age 3, where the baby cries to have their needs met and somebody comes, pow, I'll give you something to cry about. Well, they already have something to cry about, all right? They don't understand a baby under a year old only cries for needs. Okay, they need sleep, they need, all of those things. After a year old, sometimes they cry because they want a cookie before lunch, and they got to have a meltdown over that. Abuse breaks the cycle. Neglect is worse than abuse. When we have a child who's neglected, like children from orphanages, it's a deeper wound. So they're passive aggressive or passive resistant. And the children that have been abused are active aggressive, active resistant. They tell you, I don't want to do it, you can't make me. Okay, that's honest. The passive ones are like, okay, Mom, I'll do it, and then they don't, or they break something to let you know they're mad, or a clock flies out the window, so you know what. They do all kinds of weird behaviors for you to try to figure out they're having a feeling. Okay, so passive aggressive, passive resistant is the sickest, and a lot of times we get help for the active one that's saying it, and we don't realize this one's actually sicker. Then they go from active aggressive, active resistant to neurotic. And neurotic means they worry about everything. Am I good enough? Am I doing it right? Are you going to be happy with this? And at that time, they usually make a third lip. They lick till they're raw down here or up here, okay? And that's when they're in the neurotic phase as they move into having the confidence and the secure attachment. So it's a cycle as they move forward. And the passive aggressive ones have to move to active aggressive. And parents are always real happy when they move to. Now they're telling me they're not going to do it, and they're physically aggressive. Before we weren't seeing it, but it's actually honest. Okay, this is how I feel. I'm going to show you and tell you rather than you can guess by what I break and do. Okay, so maternal separation anytime before they're 3 years old, being separated from birth mom is trauma, whether they're put in the hospital, whether mom goes in the hospital, whether they're adopted, it's trauma. I live between Vail and Aspen, where the most wealthy people live in our state, multi-millionaires, and they go on a 10-day cruise and leave their baby with the nanny or whoever, and then I get to work with them later because, woo, they're a mess. Ongoing pain. The third time I retired, I said, okay, I'm not taking any more big violent children. The cowboy's like, I don't want you to do any more big violent children. Okay. Probably time to quit. So then I got a call from a dad. I don't do well with sobbing dads. I mean, it breaks my heart. And he was in a lot of pain. And he said, I've had my son in therapy since he was 4 years old. He's been on medication for all these years. He's now 12 years old. And he just absolutely is a mess. He just told me he wants to be a cannibal, and he's studying Jeffrey Dahmer, who's one of the serial killers, very perverted stuff that he did. And he said that's what he wants to do, and I don't know what to do with him. Can you help me? I'm like, the cowboy is going to kill me if I bring home another child. He's 12, and he's, But then I was also thinking, a cannibal? I never worked with a cannibal before. That would be an interesting case. And the last known cannibal was from Colorado, Alfred Packer. So I was like, well, let me talk to my husband. So I talked to the cowboy, explained the situation, and he said what he always says. Well, where else are they going to send him? I mean, they don't like advertise, we do cannibals here. You can check all over the internet. There are no programs for cannibals. So I was like, okay. So he came, and oh man, he was a mess. He tried to take me out a couple times, and that's kind of standard for mine. But he was a mess. And this is his birth father. His birth mother's a nurse. She took him to work with her when she had to go back to work, so he was in the nursery, and she could go and breastfeed him and be there with him on all of her breaks. And a very loving mom, and he's a mess. I'm like, what happened to him? Hello. Well, he had ear infections. And it was so bad. What is it? Okay, thank you. The infection would pour out of his ears. They would just burst and green stuff would pour out. So they'd go in and get the antibiotics. Well, it doesn't cure it overnight. It takes like 24 hours to get the inflammation down, then 10 days. 10 days later, green stuff would pour right back out of his ears when he finished the antibiotic, over and over and over. Very, very painful. So then they started putting the putting the tubes in. Every time they came out, green stuff would pour out, they put the tubes back in. Highly allergic to cats. If he walks through a room where a cat has been, he can't breathe for 2 days. he slept with a cat in his crib. And nobody ever asked or checked, why is this child having ear infections nonstop? So there he was. I can't trust my mom. I have pain. I cry to have the pain taken away. They aren't taking the pain away fast enough. And it can be constant colic. It can be a hernia. It can be a back pain surgery that, they're just little. They cry and we're like, we don't know what you want. You can't explain it. We're doing the best we can. So there he was, a total mess. And you know what? He made it. He is amazing. He is healthy. He's so ongoing pain. Blew him out of the water. Loving parents. Poor daycare. They did a whole study on that, and they found that 93% of the daycare providers that they studied, a 10-year study with over 1,000 children, 93% of them were not doing it right. That means if you interview 100 people, 7 of them could do good daycare for your children. And many families, you have to work. A lot of people get used to eating, and you got to have an income for that. It's so expensive. Most families need 2 incomes to make the ends meet. Up here, it's $2,000 to rent somebody's one room in their basement. And you have like a little burner and you cook in a microwave or something. I'm not sure how they do it, because I don't know how young people start out. It's crazy. So somebody's got to watch a child during the day. And when they bond to the child and love the child like their own, it can be very effective. It's fine. It doesn't hurt the child. When the daycare provider just keeps them clean, feeds them good food, and keeps them safe, because that's what they've told me is their job when I instruct for the agencies. That's our goals. They don't say bonding. Who's going to bond with the child? When we're born, we have billions of brain cells. If you get a chance to get out on a clear night here, we don't have what's called light pollution. You can see the entire Milky Way across the sky. It just takes your breath away. It's so gorgeous. So we have more cells in our brain than there are stars in the sky. But not all the cables are laid down between them. So one cell will send a cable out like this. I saw video of it. They have video of this. And one cell will send a cable out like that. And the two come together and intertwine to complete the circuit. They don't go like, where's the other end? Where's the other end? They go straight at each other. And they lay, and there's that cable. So if I had an electrical cable, okay, I'm holding it. It's not plugged into the power. There's no electrical current goes there. The AC, DC isn't going through there. It's just a cable. So in the brain, they're just cables until a stimulus occurs that sends the electrical current through that cable. The stimulus that makes that cable come live, eyes filled with love. Touch, especially skin-to-skin touch. Moving them this way builds a different part of the brain than moving them this way. Okay? This way builds the limbic system where the emotional centers are. Physically connects the cables in the brain when we do that. Okay? And sometimes you see mom bouncing the baby or dad bouncing the baby, and pretty soon they're bouncing themselves because they're like maxed out too. Milk, sweet milk, builds cables in the brain. Human milk is sweeter than any other milk they've ever tested. Sweeter than yak milk, sweeter than cow's milk, sweeter than mare's milk. It's like Eagle Brand's condensed milk. So we associate sugar and love. What do we call each other when we're in love? Honey, sugar, sweetheart, muffin. We don't call each other the power food, liver, Brussels sprout. We don't, because we associate sugar and love because mother's milk is so sweet. And that puts power in those connections. A female, when we are around a baby, our pitch in our voice goes up. We say, oh, you're so cute, you're the cutest little thing. Because a high-pitched voice activates and sends electrical current through parts of the brain that are only activated by a high-pitched female voice. A male voice, hurry up and grow so we can play ball, okay, activates a different part of the brain than the mother's voice activates. So when we're holding and rocking and loving up our babies, looking at them, feeding them, it's like 4th of July fireworks going off in there with all the electrical current shooting through those cables, making them live. And those cables will last a lifetime unless cortisol gets through and destroys them. But the cables that are not activated, because they aren't held 6 hours a day, which is how many hours a day a baby needs to be in someone's arms, the cables that aren't activated, between the age of 10 and 12, the brain prunes away all of the cables that haven't been used. Like I have to prune my little orchard out here. They prune vineyards, take off the branches that aren't good and get rid of them. The brain prunes itself. Let's get rid of these cables that have been built and not activated. So it's harder to work with a child that's past the age of 10 because the brain is pruning away cables. Is it too late? Absolutely not. Okay, but then sometime around that age and right after, God must have a sense of humor is the only thing I can think of, because he throws kerosene on the fire called hormones. Who ever thought of that idea? Oh. Anyway, hormones go in there and they say inside the child, leave your family and reproduce. Okay, and they say it very, very loudly. And if we haven't gotten our voice in there very strongly and very clearly with attachment to say, stay home and there will be no reproductive activities, they're running wild because the hormones are louder than we are in their head. And you can't get your voice in their head past the hormones at that point. So we just have to keep them close and keep them safe because the hormones are loud. So then the brain keeps moving forward until we reach 15 years old. And at 15 years old, they peak in their worst violence, their worst defiance, their worst destruction. If you go in any residential treatment facility in the United States and you ask the children how old they are, the average age will be 15. Because that's when the family cannot manage them anymore and they blow out. Why? Because our brain, right at that age, goes through what I call reformatting the hard drive. It takes all of the memory banks, the childhood memory boxes, and goes through every memory and refiles them into an adult filing cabinet. So it's going through the memories they had yesterday and last year and the year before, all the way back to the first 3 years of life and all the way back to before they were born. And they're putting those memories in a different filing system. So they get to a phase when they're in their 15th year of, I can't talk to you. You don't understand me. Because when they were a baby, they would cry and people didn't understand what they needed and they couldn't trust. I don't trust you. When you've been trustworthy for 10 years or however long you've had the child. But they're in that cycle where they shut the family out because that early time was overwhelming to them. And if we don't get to them before then, many of the professionals said once they're 15, it's too late, you can't do anything. So the very last child that I took long-term was 15 because I don't believe it. I don't believe there is no hope for a child. Attachment disorder, is that what you have next on yours? Yes? Okay. I need to make sure I got the right one. But anyway, so how do we identify if it's reactive attachment disorder or bipolar disorder or autism or oppositional defiant disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder or PTSD or explosive disorder? Okay, did I leave anything out that they normally label our children with? I think that's about all of it. But anyway, superficial, engaging, and charming is the first one right there because that's the defining factor between any of those. Autism, they cannot be cute. They cannot act cute. They cannot even fake being cute because they don't understand facial expressions. They block it so they don't learn facial expressions to do kind of like, hi, Mom. No, so they don't try to charm people. That's strictly reactive attachment disorder. They are 100% real when they are alone with mom. Okay, 100% real. But when anybody else is in the environment, they're different, especially a stranger. And if they're alone with a stranger, they are completely different. And the more intelligent they are, the better they are at performing. They put a mask up. It's a facade, and the real child is behind the mask. And all people see is the mask. So they say to the child all the time, you are cute. And the child takes it that, see, I'm fine. I mean, parents hear it until they're ready to choke on the word. They've heard it 5,000 times. But the child hears, I'm cute, which means to them, I'm fine. So all of the strangers of the world say I'm fine, but mom and dad say there's something wrong with me. Who am I going to believe? All of them. Mom's wrong. So I don't take them out in public until they get real. I don't want them being rewarded for the facade. I want them to be who they are. So I don't want them around untrained people that are going to say inappropriate things to my child. I've had people in church say, I could just take you home. And the child has nightmares and is terrified out of their mind. And that person did not mean harm. But to my children, that was very, very scary. It's like I finally got a mom that I can't control, and you're going to take me what? Ah! You know? And they just look at me. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. Over here. Thank you, Mom. All right. So, superficial, engaging, and charming. They can pour it on. Lack of eye contact on parents' terms. When you are telling them how much you love them and how important they are to you, they can't look in your eyes. They're like, all over, all over. When they're lying, great eye contact. When they're manipulating you or conning you, fabulous eye contact. Or somebody else. Some of them had listed, poor eye contact when I spoke with you. Then I worked with them last night. There was absolutely zero problem with the eye contact because they were trying to con me. Can I get you on my side against my parents? Like, not happening at this camp. Nope. So, indiscriminate affection with strangers. They preferred me. Mine would have gone home with the homeless guy on the corner that was begging for money that doesn't even have a home, rather than go home with me where I have a nice home and good food. And it's like, really? What am I, chopped liver? I search for answers for you. I drive you to therapy. And you're going to just go home with anybody? Can I go home with you? I'm like, okay, child's still sick. We got work to do. They're not affectionate on parents' terms, on your terms. I've had parents tell me, oh, he's very attached. He loves me very much. And the child comes in the room, comes in front of the parent, backs up, and sits on the mom like she's a chair. I'm like, that is not attachment. That is, you are furniture to me. I'm like, you don't sit with your back to your mother. A real child reaches toward mom, heart to heart, reaches, okay, and comes and climbs in our lap here, not sitting. Anyway, destructive to themselves, others, and material things. They have accidents. So we don't even allow that word at camp. There are no accidents. Even when you run your car into somebody because you're texting or not paying attention, they call it an accident. It's like, that's not an accident. Children that have reactive attachment disorder pee in their bed, it is not an accident. It's big feelings that they're putting somewhere besides with their words and sharing them with you. But parents, oh, is that an accident? It's like, no, you're cleaning it up. We don't do accident. All right, so cruelty to animals is a test to see if you're going to protect them. And when we have a child that's cruel to animals, you run. Don't walk. You run to the nearest highly skilled trained attachment therapist, or you're going to lose that child. It's a huge red flag of pathology when they have no empathy for another living being. But it's also, I don't know if you guys are as bad as I am, but I think my dog went back out. No, she's still here. So somebody wore her out. It's a lot of work entertaining the dads with their dead monkey. I know, her stick and whatever stuff. She's brilliant. She's my service dog. She's flown with me all over the world with her little harness and all that stuff, working at camps. And she passed all of her service dog exams by the time she's 6 months old. I mean, she's just amazing, and she can sense your heart. If you're afraid or you're stressed to the max, she'll come and sit by you. Just, I'm here for you, kind of a thing. Not pushy, but just. So anyway, she's an amazing dog. And sometimes I pick her up. She hates to be picked up. She's like, I am a cattle herding dog. Put me down. I'm not a poodle. But I want to cuddle her. Okay, so I pick her up. I tell her she's beautiful and brilliant. I kiss her face. And I don't know if you're as bad as I am, but I do that. So the children see me loving the dog. I got a turkey out there named Sparky. She's been to the nursing home when we do our therapy visits. She's been to the veterans home. She gets kissed too. I kiss my turkey. If I had an eagle, I would kiss the eagle. Anyway, they see us nurturing our pets, giving them food, talking to them, and they say, you love that dog. I don't think you love me, but I can see you love that dog. Would you protect that dog or not? So if they can get to the dog and hurt her, pull her ears, kick her, or tease her with a toy, then they're like, you didn't protect the dog that I know you love, so I'm more in danger because I don't think you love me, so I'm not going to be protected even as much as that dog, and you let that dog get hurt in your watch. So the trust just went shh. So when I had the children here, I had the dog here, the child there. The dog in the yard, the child in the house. The child in the yard, the dog in the house. They were not left alone for one split second with the dog because they hurt another living being. It makes them sicker, big time. What it does to their heart when they hurt someone else like that, a baby that can't tell on them. And the dogs will tell you. The child comes in the room and they walk out of the room. The child tries to pet them. They don't like the child. They don't want to be around them. So they shouldn't be around them. And they have this program where they get a therapy dog for the child to bond to. Really? They can't bond to their mother? They're going to bond to an animal first? No, they're not. They're going to hurt that animal and get sicker. It's a really bad idea. Okay, so no. They see us nurturing and caring for our animal, feeding our cattle and all that, but they aren't doing it. Lying about the obvious. Oh, mine would lie. Chocolate all over the face. I said, I told you don't eat the chocolate. They said, I didn't eat any chocolate. I said, what's all over your face? Mud. They're holding the cat by the tail. Put the cat down. I don't have the cat. I never touch a cat. You're like, they just lie to see if anybody will believe it. It's kind of like an IQ test. Are you done? And they're good. No, really, Mom, really, that's the truth. Really. No, it's not. Your gut will tell you, sounds a little fishy here, but he's really acting it up, so he's trying to convince me otherwise. And we're going to cover what do we do with lying, what do we do with all of those behaviors one-on-one when we don't have the children here. So the last 2 days of training we're going to do without children in here because we don't want them to get an earful. Okay, and we have other activities that they need to do for camp that's a whole lot more fun than listening to me. Abnormal eating patterns. They don't eat because they're hungry and stop when they're full. They eat all of it so nobody can have any, or they won't eat it because you start loving it. And mine would come in here with a list of what they will eat that's this long and a list of what they don't eat that's that long. And it's not happening. One doctor called me up. She said, my child won't eat anything but chicken nuggets. And he won't eat them from McDonald's. They have to be from Burger King. So I have to drive all the way across town. I call him ahead of time. They make a huge batch. I put them in the freezer, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He eats chicken nuggets. He won't even put ketchup on them, so there's 0 vegetables. And I don't know what to do. I said, hey, bring them out. We don't even have a Burger King and McDonald's. And if we did, we sure wouldn't go there. So first day, they were here at lunchtime, and I fed them a beautiful lunch. And he said, I don't eat this. I only eat chicken nuggets. I said, no problem. My dog loves it. I put him in here playing Legos. Nighttime, he did the same thing. The next morning, the next afternoon, the next night, the next morning, the next afternoon. So it was a long time. I thought, okay, he's going to get hungry at some point. So I made wild rice chicken chowder. Yeah, that's what it was. Anyway, one of my favorite chowders. And we had it for lunch. He says, oh, this is really good. He finished his bowl. He said, may I please have some more? And his dad burst into tears. He's like, we eat soups and stews all the time, full of all kinds of vegetables and everything. He won't even touch them. And the boy goes, yeah, well, this one's good. But he wouldn't even taste the ones his parents made. And that was the end of it. He ate salad. He ate everything I put in front of the boy, he ate it. Okay, but I had to hold out until I was like, okay, if he doesn't eat by now, we're going to take him into the hospital and have him tube fed. Because there's no way chicken nuggets are coming in my house. Not happening. He was going to literally starve to death. Eating chicken nuggets, he's going to die. I mean, not on my watch. So he got over it and he ate food, but that was tough. All right, abnormal eating patterns. They get over it. Inappropriately demanding and clingy. Can I have a hug? Can I have a hug? When you're trying to drain the pasta and you got a pot of boiling water, or the neighbor's over and you're trying to talk, then they need a cuddle. When they wouldn't let you touch them all day, don't touch me, don't touch me. You know, it's just part of the rad. Abnormal speech patterns. They don't speak clearly, or they don't speak loud enough so you can't understand them or you can't hear them, and you're always like, what? Can you say that again? Can you say that again? We send them into the speech therapist who teaches them how to pronounce their things and gives them a candy, and they come back and the speech never improves. With a normal, healthy child, they go to the speech therapist, they get the speech therapy, their speech improves, and they're great. These children would rather play the game of you asking them what. So we don't. Your child doesn't speak clearly, loud enough. Flight check. You've heard your child speak clearly and loud enough, then they can do it, and they need a flight check. All right. Triangulation of adults. They act different for mom than they do for dad. So mom is working with the child she sees. Dad is working with the child he sees. Mom thinks dad's wrong. Dad thinks mom's wrong. We got to blow up. They act different for the teacher than they do for mom. The teacher thinks mom's a nutcase or ineffective or something. They act different for the therapist than they do for mom. So they divide the team very quickly. And they will try to triangulate between you and my team. So they'll come out of the flight check room. Oh, I can't go back in there. It's so scary. You know, they have a rack and they beat us with chains or whatever stuff. Okay? And feel free to go and peek your head in the teepee when your child's not in there so they don't blow up more. But, you know, ask anything. We'll tell you what went on in there. We're happy. But they don't want you to call flight check. So they're going to try to get you convinced that they're being tortured in there. And they will do the same with us, telling us that you are beating them, starving them, hanging them by their toenails. We know better. You didn't come all the way to camp to get help for your child. People who beat their kids don't take them to therapy. They don't take them because the child's going to tell on them. Okay? So we know better. We aren't going to believe the nonsense your children tell us. And feel free to check it out if you hear strange stories. Well, false allegations of abuse is a problem, presumptive entitlement issues. Many of them believe they should get what they want when they want it. And if you don't give it to them, then they go back and do the one above that. It's like, woo! And here, we're going to say no to what they want that they don't need and yes to what they do need. Okay? So, we'll work through that. Parents appear hostile and angry. I don't know why. How many of you thought, you know, honey, let's call up and see if we can get the most defiant, angry, destructive child that can come and live with us and hate us and wear us out and take all the fun and embarrass us so the people at church and in the neighborhood think we're weird and the teachers will hate us. Let's see if they have a child like that. Is that what you guys called and signed up for? That wasn't it? You were thinking there's probably a child who needs a home and love and good food, and we'll have fun, and we'll go fishing, and we'll fly kites and bake cookies, and we'll laugh together, and we'll teach them important things, and someday they'll turn and look at us and say, thank you for saving me. And what do we get? I hate you. I'm like, that's not the vision I had as an adoptive parent. Oh, poor peer relationships, they don't have friends. They think they have friends, but they're going to be away at camp. We got 4 minutes? Oh, thank you. So, are there friends calling your house, leaving messages? You know, maybe you have a cell phone. We have a landline. There's no cell service here, you know. So, yeah, there are friends, you know, hey, are you all right? I haven't heard from you. Are you going to come over? They're invited to all the birthday parties. No, not unless it's your friends and they feel obligated because their child's having a birthday and they don't want to leave you out. But they don't have real friends where they care about each other and have a good time. They don't. They're lonely. Preoccupied with fire, blood, and gore, they're drawn to the dark side, to the evil, to destruction. Persistent nonsense, questions, and chatter. Oh, man, they're low. It just goes. Did I put my... Oh, I did. Okay. Stealing, often a problem. No impulse controls. They frequently act hyperactive. A lot of them are put on Ritalin because they think it's ADHD rather than trauma, which makes our children hypervigilant. Okay, now there are certainly children that have ADHD, but many of our children are hypervigilant, which is different. When you watch a deer eat, they graze, they eat their grass, and then they look, where's the mountain lion? Where's the mountain lion? And then they eat, where's the mountain lion? Where's the mountain? And our children do schoolwork like that. Schoolwork, who's going to hurt me? What's going to happen? Schoolwork, what's going to happen? So they look like ADHD, but it's hypervigilant, not hyperactivity. Hyperactivity is like this. Useless movement. Just useless movement. Okay, it's not, am I safe? So we need to know which one we're dealing with there, or they end up on medication that doesn't help. Let's see, no impulse controls. We got learning lags. We're going to talk about the brain tomorrow. You'll see why. Lack of cause and effect thinking. That's a big deal. That right there, cause and effect thinking, is why traditional parenting techniques cannot work with our children that had trauma. That part of their brain doesn't work. So to reward the good behavior with sticker charts or whatever kind of things, their brain doesn't get it. They do the same thing wrong over and over and over because the cause and effect's defective. Mathematics requires this part of the brain to work. So you do this to that number and you get this result is cause and effect. So they struggle with math even though they may be brilliant. The math to them makes them feel stupid because all the other kids can figure it out, and they struggle because that part of their brain hasn't developed. Okay? Lack of conscience, they don't feel bad when they hurt you or someone else. In the little babies, they don't use crying appropriately to have their needs met. So they either don't cry. We call that a good baby. That's not a good baby. That's a baby that is not saying, hey, I need you. They're just shut down. So a normal healthy baby cries. We meet the need. They settle. These babies either don't cry or they don't settle. They just cry all the time. You feed them, you change them, they just fuss and cry, overreact or startle to touch, sound, or light. There is a startle response for a period of time in a neurotypical baby where they startle when and that's normal. But then they get past it, and babies with attachment issues with trauma, they startle when they're 10 years old. They never got past that startle response. So the infants do a startle, just turning the lights on or a sound. They overreact. Oh, we did that. Okay. 10 seconds. Listlessness with no medical reason, infant depression. Some of them just lay in the chair and stare into space. Okay, and that's not normal. Babies are interested, they're active, they're climbing. And they do what we call staries right before they take a nap. They stare and then they, for a little bit. Limited holding on. A healthy baby reaches, clings, holds on. A baby with attachment disorder will turn with their arm in between you and them, and they prefer to face out and away rather than face their mom and dad. A normal healthy baby wants to see your face. Lack of appropriate stranger anxiety. Between 6 and 9 months, when they're put in the arms of a stranger, they look at the face and they go, ah, that's not my mom, that's not my dad, and they freak out. Unless they have attachment disorder, then they're fine. They just go with anybody and anybody. Okay? And we don't let strangers hold our babies that have had stress and trauma at all, ever. Mom, dad, and grandparents. No siblings, no church friends, no. And people are like, why can't we hold your baby? We're taught to share. You got to share. So you get in church and everybody's like, can I hold your baby? So we know the baby doesn't like it, and we have an instinct that says this isn't right, but we're supposed to share, so we hand the baby over. Because, babies have the soft skin, and we want, we cuddle them. I love holding babies. But then they pass the baby to somebody else, and somebody else. Babies hate being in some stranger's arms. They don't smell right, they don't look right, their heartbeat is wrong, and it is very scary to them. So I have moms put them in a pouch before you get into church, and then people don't ask to hold them because they cannot be held. When they've been trauma affected, only mom and dad hold the baby, nobody else. Okay, so They show minimal interest in interacting with people. They'd rather look at toys than people. They don't smile or respond to activity like, baby talk, hello, how you doing? And they get all excited. They don't do that. They avoid eye contact, self-abusive behavior, and they're resistant to cuddling. They get stiff when you cuddle them instead of fold in. Like, he's just all relaxed in your arms there. That's real normal. Okay? Babies that have trauma cannot face out in the carrier. A normal, healthy baby for a short period of time, it's not too bad, but overall, it's real scary. They see all the strangers. They can't see your face. They can't cling if they get scared. They can't lay their ear on your heart to listen to how calm your heart is. So we don't want to do that. The most powerful time of bonding is while they're sucking. And when we can look in their eyes off and on while they're drinking their milk, it fills them at a more powerful time than anything else that they do in the first couple of years. This baby is being fed facing away, his arms are down, and they pretty soon start imitating. He's imitating mom and dad hold the bottle here, so he's learning that. This baby's so overwhelmed, he's like this, and he's actually bonding to the tush of the lady in front of him instead of to his daddy, because that's all he's looking at, okay? And he's just completely glazed over. He's so overwhelmed, he's, shut down. I was teaching in Mother Teresa's orphanage outside of Calcutta, Kolkata, they call it now, anyway. And this lady was begging, and I asked her if I could take her picture. What do you see that's wrong with this picture? What's wrong here? Right. Why is the baby leaning toward me? I'm taking a picture. She's got him by the arm. And he's leaning toward me. I'm a stranger. I was just filling in while I was waiting for you.
Oh, he's good.
So he's got his eyes glowing, trying to engage me. He clearly should be clinging to her, and like, that's a stranger. This is, whoops, those baby carriers are terrible. Chinese orphanage, any orphanage, there's not enough arms to hold a baby 6 hours a day. They don't get the movement they need. There's no way. Wonderful people volunteer to give a year of their life in this particular orphanage, and they do the best they can. But every baby that comes out of an orphanage has been neglected. So this baby is doing what she should do. I'm taking her picture. Look at her eyes. What does her eyes say? What's the message you're getting there?
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? She's leaning her ear closer to her mom. You're a stranger. Okay, she's got her hand. You can't really see it, but between the rings, she's got a grip going on there. And her ear is closer to her mom's heart, so she can hear that heartbeat. Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Paul, because he's going to do some stuff.
All right.
He's
So.
going to do Paul stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So first thing I want you to do is just deep breath. All right. Just let it out. Relax just for a second here. I know you've been hit with a whole bunch of things here, and keep your pens and papers out for just a second here. But okay. All I want you to do is just find a little spot in your notebook somewhere, and just like almost vomit out the most important things. That which is like just get it out as fast as you can. The most important things you heard today. Short sentences, short things. What were the most important things that you heard today? Now, just with the things you wrote down. I'm not sure what you wrote down. I know about what today was about, kind of, and so this. But assign either a time or a date, or a time and a date, where you can do some of those things. If it was an action that you need to do or take, assign a time or a date to that. If it is something you want to remember, assign something to that. If it's like, if there's something specific, maybe you're thinking, okay, purple eagle, right? I'm going to assign a purple eagle, and when I see a purple eagle or an eagle, I just want you to connect it somehow. If there is something for you to do, put a time and a date to get it done. Be
like a
specific
deadline?
as you possibly can.
Okay.
Or if it's like every Monday, you're going to remind yourself of the symptoms of RAD. Or every, whatever that is. Does that make sense? And this is just for you. This is just a way for it to kind of stick into your head. So give it some physical, some concrete stuff that you can do with whatever it is. And if it doesn't make sense with what you wrote down, then do some fancy underlining or something, all right? But just take what you don't add anything else right now, but just write some of that stuff down, all right? Just a couple minutes to do that, not very much time at all.